Hi, everyone.
Hello.
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 Cool. I'm waiting.
Hi,
I'm waiting
everyone.
for Jonat, who's joining now.
Recording in progress.
Ooh.
You're making me seasick, Thomas.
Sorry, Greg. I will stabilize very, very soon. Here I am. Comp in my chair. No, I had to go into another room because we were exchanging signals between me and Jonat. So yes, apparently I'm chairing today's meeting. So, and the only item I have on the agenda at the moment is what is the project proposal that we wanted to discuss with a wider group, and I think Jonat is on the call and can take the control to actually go through the proposal that we're going to make to the group, and then we can discuss that, I think, afterwards.
Sure. So shall I start sharing screen?
Yeah.
Real quick, before we get into the topic, just for anybody on the call, we have the notes doc. Probably post the link into the chat to put your names in. And I know we haven't done introductions in a while. I don't know if we can go through and catch anybody who's new to the group. I have a vested interest here because I see that one of my colleagues is joining for the first time. Give them a chance to introduce themselves, and if there's anybody else as well.
Cool.
All right.
Hi, I'm Rene Kolga, PM on the confidential computing team at Google. Yeah, joining for the first time, working with Keith.
Awesome.
Thanks, Renee. Do we have anybody else on the call that hasn't introduced themselves in the past?
Yes, I think I maybe knew. It's easy to lose track, but I don't think I've joined I don't think I've joined a CCC Attestation meeting before. So yeah, I'm Paul Howard, solutions architect with ARM, actually a peer of Thomas in the same team as Thomas and Jonat.
Welcome.
Welcome, Paul.
Hi, I'm Anjali. So I am a new research intern working closely with Tushar in the attestation. So I'm working in ARM.
Hi, Anjali.
Yeah,
Nice
hi,
to meet
Thomas.
you. Nice to
We
see you.
already know.
Yes.
Yeah, hi, I'm Sam. I'm also in the same team as Paul, Howard, Jonna, and Thomas. Yeah, an intern at Arm.
Hi, Sam. Cool, you were right, Keith. There were a reasonable amount of new faces to introduce.
Yeah, I
And-
suspect.
and- Yeah, and Keith has posted on the chat the link to the Google Docs document that if you want to fill in with your names, and so we can track the participation. Cool. Any agenda bashing, by the way? Anyone wants to put anything else on the agenda, because we only have one topic today, and maybe there's room for other discussions. I don't know. Nope. I think so. Please, Jonathan, go ahead.
Sharing screen. Cool. Can you see my screen?
We see it.
Cool. Yes. So I'm Jonas Mihalcha, software engineer at ARM. I've been working with Thomas and Paul and Sam and Hannes to progress this project, and yeah, we wanted to present it to you and to pitch it as a project proposal for the attestation SIG. So first off, if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me at any point. Right, so the context for this is that Hannes presented a TLS plus COTS project to the SIG in the past. And there's a link to the slides here, and I'll share these slides afterwards. And the brainstorming and the prototyping, which ensued, like highlighted some limitations with that idea and the existing APIs. So we decided to sit down and try to sketch out an improved version of this TLS plus COTS prototype and spec. So to address all the identified problems, especially like explicit freshness and format agnosticism, and yeah, support for different topologies. So the result is currently in a new internet draft, and fortunately it's a bit of a rough draft because we were trying to hit an IETF submission cutoff. But yeah, we'll be definitely working and improving it as soon as we can, and yeah, hoping to gather support and interest from this group. So our plan is to evolve the spec in parallel with an embed TLS prototype, and then we'll try to hook this TLS functionality to an end-to-end demo, and we'll be using Parsec as the driver for the attestation part, for the root of trust part, and then Verizon for the attestation verification. So looking a bit at the prototype architecture, we're trying to essentially build a prototype around the augmented handshake, where we're going to be sharing attestation, native attestation evidence or results instead of certificates. And yeah, we're trying to expand embed TLS to support this, and then using Parsec underneath embed TLS, and then the peer will be using Verizon for verification. Okay. So our project goals. Oh, sorry, was that a question? Okay. So project goals. First project goal, to establish groundwork for, like, the spec groundwork for attestation-based credentials used natively in TLS. So replacing essentially certificates with either attestation results or evidence to either support a passport-based model or a background check model for attestation. We want the extension to be platform and T agnostic, so we can transport evidence or results for any type of attestation. And then we want the TLS implementation to be able to treat it as an opaque blob that gets carried around, and it doesn't need to worry about what the format inside actually is. Yeah, and I tried for all of our goals to write up a bit around how this fits in with the CCC attestation charter goals or topic, or yeah. So I won't go over that because I'm aware that most people are probably well versed with this topic. So our second goal is to provide a proof of concept, an end-to-end proof of concept, using widely used open source projects. So Embed TLS will be the base for TLS extension, which is obviously quite widely used. And then we'll be using Verizon, which is a CCC project for verification, and Parsec, CNCF project for interoperation with the root of trust. Oh, I see a message. Okay. Thank you, Thomas, for linking to the charter. Okay, and then we have a couple of stretch goals as well. The first one being that we're trying to sync similar efforts to try to standardize the transport formats for key attestation. So there have been a few drafts recently floating about trying to use some sort of standard way of encoding or transporting key attestation results, evidence, not results. And there's been one around Acme device attestation, and I think one for more generic certificate management protocol. So we're trying to concert this effort to make sure that we align all these drafts and that we can use a common spec for this. And hopefully we can homogenize the encapsulation of attestation-based credentials in X5 and 9 certificates as well. This would be a part of this stretch goal. Right, so looking a bit at those formats, we're planning on using the formats specified in the Web Authentication Standard, which are essentially trying to convey very disjoint key attestation formats under one type of encoding. So the Web Authentication Standard specifies an attestation object and an attestation statement. You can see it here on the right. So the attestation statement is essentially plugged into the attestation object, and they're both kind of web authentication shaped and with a web authentication shaped workflow around them. So they're not entirely reusable for our formats. And this is actually part of our issue here, and part of what we try to do with the guys working on Acme and LAMPS. So web authentication comes with several statement formats, which provide formats for key attestation for Android or for TPMs. So we're trying to adopt and adapt these formats and the workflows around them to just make them more generic and to be able to be used in all sorts of protocols, including this TLS handshake. Yeah, and our second stretch goal is to produce technical documentation and some sort of design philosophy that could potentially help in the future for similar extensions for other protocols, for example, for SSH, and hoping that what we produce now can be maybe not entirely reused, but at least provide a base for further designs in other protocols. Yeah. So as a conclusion, we're just hoping that the direction of this investigation and the development are maybe of interest to other stakeholders, and we can collaborate and align with other initiatives, and hoping to get this adopted as a CCC project, CCC Attestation project.
So at first blush, this seems similar to what Dan proposed a few weeks ago, that we were looking to consolidate some of the efforts that among different projects to bind attestations to secure channels. I wonder if we can combine forces there and maybe incorporate some of the goals from this proposal into that, or do you think that it is separate enough? Because I don't think those had used the WebAuthn at all. None of the protocols we were looking at there. If that was a key part of your proposal, or whether you think that should be considered for the project. What are your thoughts there?
I think I'll probably let Thomas. I think Thomas has a better overview of this.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I can comment a little bit. So Keith, you mentioned about the Dan. Yeah, well, he has he and I actually have been looking into this unification of these various like IATLS type of protocols, right? So try to create. We're actually in the process to create kind of we call interoperable, like attested TLS protocol, right? So that at least allow different kind of ITLS type of implementation libraries to work with each other, right? And also looking into the possibility of extending to support the to make the evidence TE and then evidence format agnostic, so that people can extend to support additional TEs or like evidence formats, right? So, and I was hoping, I can review this proposal in the next session. So in this session, I'm not 100% ready yet.
So then what are your thoughts on the proposal on the table today? Are they compatible in your opinion, Shenwei, or are they different enough that they should be kept separate?
I think the direction is the same. So at that level, I think it's compatible. But then, like here in my proposal, the focus is how to put the evidence. So currently, how to put evidence in a certificate, right? So, but here I think the difference is that are we trying to put this attestation evidence as a different kind of as something different than the certificate, or so?
Yeah. So
in that case, it will be that's where there will be difference. Right?
Exactly, Shenwei. There are basically two aspects here. One is the protocol, TLS protocol extensions, and that's where the two proposals, Dan's and yours and Jonat's and friends, differ, because they touch different parts of the TLS handshake. So in one case, you parasite the already existing X509 certificate exchange, and in this case, there's a new kind of message that needs to be introduced in order to carry these attestation credentials natively. So these are separate, but then there is the harmonization part that Jonas has introduced about using a format that could potentially be reused across different layers, which is this WebAuthn or WebAuthn based wrapper. And I think it's if Shenwei could take it, or everyone could take a look at that and see whether that makes sense, because we have seen it popping up at different places with a curious synchronicity, and when these kinds of things happen, you might want to take a deeper look to see whether it's just a coincidence, or if there's effectively an emerging pattern that can be reused across different layers. And so I've I've stuck into the chat a couple of pointers on for the documents that Jonat was talking about, and I would really like if you could have a look and see whether that would be an applicable a way forward for the extension that you're envisaging for the RATLS and
So question, Thomas, do you have the next details of what changes you need for TLS protocol to support this proposal?
Yeah.
Can you share our draft as well, Thomas?
Of course. Although it's a bit rough, but
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there. So, yeah, I mean, the group might want to have a deeper look at this and try to assess whether this is a good proposal, this is something that we want to pursue, or maybe not, or in which form is also important, right? Whether we want to have a congregated work item, or we want to keep the things separate.
So the CCC aspect of this project, when you're saying that you would like to get this adopted as a project under the attestation SIG, what would that mean, particularly? I know that in the past we have been fairly adverse to being something akin to a standards body, and mostly we wanted to progress towards having examples of reasonable implementations of different approaches, and this seems like it may be treading towards the standards body aspect of it, or am I misinterpreting?
Yeah, there are two aspects here. So there's the prototyping, so the running code part, which would be developed here.
Okay.
And the standardization, which would progress in another forum, in the ATF, in the TLS working group, but they would be separate from the point of view of the kind of effort that goes into one and the other, right?
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, I think this sounds great. I'd be real interested to see this. I know, a lot of the other approaches have attempted to work with the protocol as it exists, and try to fit within things, and it has led to a few different suboptimal things that have had to be done, which is why the approaches all took different directions, because they optimized for different suboptimal approaches. This may be the best path forward, is if there were an actual integration into the stack, if it were to eventually be supported by like TLS libraries and everything.
Yeah.
So that may be a long road to get there, but we can't get to the end of the road till you start driving on it. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. This is the ethos here. They're doing the exploratory work and the prototyping that needs to be done in parallel with the spec creation, because you want to learn from running code and use cases and integration with other bits and pieces, because here we're talking so also not just about the foundational work, but also about integrating that foundational work within a wider ecosystem and try to see whether that works, fits with other pieces that are developed independently. So I think there's also this aspect that is interesting in the proposal, from which of course I need to recuse, because I am in 2 months. Oh, Mohammed, please go ahead.
Yeah, so there was a talk by Tom in the SIG. So I'm just wondering, when you touch the protocol, this is very critical. You can have some bugs that you cannot predict, And at places when there are a number of sessions, you cannot really argue about that in a good way, because then there are multiple sessions and the things, and the adversary can get information from multiple sessions. In short, Mom, are you planning also to do something like Tom presented, some formal analysis that the protocol that you will change afterwards will still be secure enough?
And that's an excellent question. I hope there could be Hannes here to answer you, because he has the ties into the research.
Hannes said that he can't join, I think.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I had to defer this, but Mohamed, I will follow up on this, and I will chase Hannes and tell the group what he thinks.
Sure. Thanks.
Yeah, but it seems like a very important work, right? So you have we're trying to modify TLS 1.3 handshake, and therefore you need to provide guarantees about the security of the thing after you have modified it. So yeah.
Yeah, because TLS in itself, there was a long series of attacks, and then up to TLS 1.2 itself. So then it was optimized to TLS 1.3, and then there was a long series of attacks and figured out via the formal analysis. And I would be wondering if changing the protocol itself will be a nice or will be a wise way to do that, or at least if the plan is to change the protocol in itself, there should be some formal analysis to give some guarantees that it is still secure after doing all the changes and the modifications, at least at the symbolic level. If we do not go to the computational level, let's say, at least the Proveri for Tamarin or something like that, SEPIC tool, some symbolic tool which Tom presented, something like that, should be a part of it. That would be the minimum I would expect if the plan is to change the protocol.
Yeah, intuitively, I think that it wouldn't be so difficult to actually make reuse existing work, because what we're talking about here is credentials that bind a key with an identity, where the identity is rooted somewhere else that in an X509 hierarchy. But there's something that sounds very, very, very familiar. So, but you're right. There needs to be some kind of effort at the theoretical level to actually prove the properties of the thing. But this is it's a third dimension of apart from the prototyping and the specing of this proposal. Greg?
Yeah, I would encourage real quick to take a good look at Tom's work on ECAP. I think that a lot of that could be reused. There was a lot of foundational effort to get something actually usable for a protocol like this in Pro, perhaps that could be reused.
Yeah, I think so. Greg, I see your hands up.
Yeah, thanks. So first, I'm all in favor of the community, working, contributing, doing open source contributions and any sort of libraries that are potentially useful. And certainly I can see that both the efforts from Shanwei and what's being discussed today, being useful. When I think at a high level, one question that comes up is, or one difference that appears in my mind, and perhaps folks can help me look at this a different way. But as I understand what we're discussing today, it's using attestation evidence, kind of lower level in the TLS protocol conversation, and using it to ultimately attest to and establish the secure channel. When you have something like a verification service, you produce signed results that live longer than the TLS channel. So in the work that I think Shanwei and friends are thinking about, the part of that is to tether attestation evidence about one endpoint or either endpoint, I guess, in a TLS authenticated TLS conversation to an X509 certificate. So for a verification service with ISON or MEA or what have you, where after the TLS session goes down, there's some attestation evidence that's signed or attestation results that are signed that X509 certificate with the embedded attestation evidence is useful beyond just the TLS channel that was established, but also as something that can be used in the future to re-verify the attestation, signed attestation results. So
Yeah, absolutely.
so I guess from and I you know my verification service centric world where I live, sleep, and kind of breathe a particular attestation service, that's a pretty significant thing, and it makes that one it solves more of my immediate problems. But you know, I can certainly see that there's value in both. And if folks have some different ideas, you know,
you can always see the the verification service playing the role of the identity provider in that sense, right? Once it verifies some evidence, it could attach an identity to that and bind the thing into attestation results that can be then used as a passport, or as a passport around. Yeah. So there are.
I think that the key bit here is some of the different protocols we've looked at, or maybe just STET, but bound the attestation to the session itself. Like you needed to get a fresh attestation for that particular TLS exchange. I would want to see that supported in an update, like if we in this project. But I think what Greg is bringing up is there may need to be room for attestation evidence that is not specific to that TLS session, one that is reusable across different uses.
Yeah. Yeah. So in fact, I think what Jonat was sort of saying between the lines when he said that we want to support different topologies is exactly that. The ability to support the passport model where the attestation results are effectively a kind of identity credential and as well as the evidence which needs to be fresh at each invocation of the protocol.
Well, I think that the freshness can apply to both attestation results and to evidence, but
yeah, this is in a slightly different way, right? So because once it's session freshness and the other one is freshness of the credential, of the binding between the identity and the key material that is,
Yeah, I agree. It's that the TLS freshness is a more specific one. It's per session. Every session you want to know, you get evidence for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so this sounds like a great project to me. As long as we scope it to the like prototyping aspect of it, I could potentially see even the verification aspect of it being something that's related to the CCC, but not the standards actual stuff part of it. So I'd be in favor of us taking on this as a project. As far as procedurally, like, do chairs need to vote on this so that we can create a GitHub repo for this? Is that how you'd like this to exist, or would you like to wait and have something more tangible before creating the GitHub repo?
I think procedurally, if I remember correctly, the charter says that we need to create an issue, and then there's a vote on that issue on GitHub, and then the activity starts after the thing is been approved with a quorum of I don't remember how much, Chair, but so there has to be this small, small procedure, and then I think I would ask Jonat, but well, about the repo, where do you want to host it, and whether you'd like to host it under the CCC attestation umbrella.
My recollection of the charter was that the options were either consensus on a vote or an issue, but we could do it through the issue if you'd rather.
No, the quick is the best. I'm not. As long as there's a trace of the decision process, I'm happy with anything.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. It may be beneficial, right? So to wait a little bit until that we present these other options. So, for example, the proposal I'm looking at, and then see how we can combine the effort, right?
So Shanwei, what are you proposing?
So yeah, my thinking is that maybe we can, as Keith mentioned, right? So maybe we can wait until like at least when after I presented my proposal, and then we can see like how these different efforts, similar efforts, could be combined.
That's true. We should probably, if we get both proposals and then a discussion, seeing whether they should be kept separate or a single project.
Yeah.
And then we could actually decide both or one larger project should be the way to go.
Okay.
I guess a related question in my mind is what is the downside, or what is the expectations about taking the project on and with the CCC moniker and umbrella, and is there any downside to having, you know, all good ideas essentially being accepted? I'm very new to this space, so I don't really have a model in my head of kind of like what is kind of what philosophically kind of is the gate to like, yeah, this is, you know, is it just, you know, very ad hoc, and if the folks in the community say, yeah, let's do it, then yes, and or is there, you know, is there a downside for saying yes to too many, or what have you?
No, I don't think there's any problem with having two projects that run in parallel. The thing that maybe is interesting in waiting a bit is trying to understand how much harmonization we can. It forces us to think about the harmonization a bit harder, you know. That doesn't mean that we cannot do that in any case, even if we started now today with this one and then have another one in a couple of weeks. But at least sort of, you know, I don't know, joint effort should be. We should really strive for that.
Yeah, I think from a SIG philosophical point of view, like there would be no problem in having multiple different efforts going forward. But from a just limited amount of total attention and efforts going forward, one of the things we had noticed when we were going through our existing survey of secure channel attestation approaches is that there was room for some consolidation, and that we might be better off if we worked to consolidate things. And if this case, if we thought that there was a potential for them to be consolidated from the get-go, these two efforts, you know, we could save ourselves as an industry some time rather than having to converge them later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if they seem to be, you know, a good use of time to pursue separately, I would have no like philosophical problem with having two different approaches that solve a similar space, but maybe differently or optimized for different things. That would be fine.
Yeah, thanks. All makes sense and sounds reasonable. So it seems like unless that there's an urgent need to kind of get the CCC GitHub repo going immediately in the next few weeks, it makes sense to pause that one for the moment until we hear what Shanwei has to share in the upcoming weeks.
Yeah. So there's a slight problem, which is the presence, because in a couple of weeks it's going to be half of August. I don't know how many of us will be available. I'm not here, so.
I know we took some notes in the notes doc that we had multiple absences on the 16th. And there was some question from some people about the 30th. I know I'll be out the 30th, but I don't know if there'll be other absences.
I will be in.
For the 16th, and my plan changed, so I will be available. I don't remember who else will be out.
I'm out.
Okay.
So if we were waiting until what would it be, the 13th of September or so is a long time.
Yeah.
So at least the week that I'm gone, if there are no other absences, I should probably proceed with some of this, and I'll just watch the recording.
Yeah, that's the only thing, because we practically skip a month.
I don't have a very clear picture in my head in terms of the 16th and the 30th. Are one or both of those dates kind of, we think aren't happening because there's not enough quorum?
Last time the 16th appeared that there would not be a quorum.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it seems like Shen Wei will now be here. I think, let's see.
The Thomas will not be here on 16th. So.
Yeah.
Is everybody here, or is the preponderance of folks going to be here on the 30th?
Yeah,
Maybe we
30th
should just,
is out.
We'll do there.
maybe we should do Sean Wei's presentation on the 30th. Or did Keith, were you going to be out on that 30th? I didn't.
Yeah.
I will be out on the 30th, but like I wouldn't necessarily, not everybody. Like, if we wait for everybody, we're going to be waiting a long time.
Well, Thomas seems to be part of the crew that understands today's presentation quite well. So it seems to make sense that he would be involved in the conversation when Sean Wei speaks.
Yeah. In fact,
Keith, you're vocal as always, but
Understandable.
Okay, so what we do, we wait for the 30th to hear from Sean Wei and Dan, I think, if I understand correctly, and then we take the decision on. We discuss it and we decide whether we want one project or two projects.
Yeah, that sounds fun to me.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Makes
In the
sense to
meantime, we can work in discussing in parallel with between the two groups and see whether we can find an harmonization earlier.
I mean, there's no requirement say, oh, we have to combine all these different efforts, right? So just like have these proposals out so we can take a look at all of them to see if there's an opportunity, or we still decide to go different paths. That's totally okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, let's park this for the month of August, and then let's decide it later. Cool. Thank you, Jonah. That was very clear presentation. Yes. Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and then for kind of procedural things, like Mohammed pointed out in the chat, that our non-technical charter document still lists some prior chairs. We probably need to get that updated. I think at some point we had said that we should separate the names from the actual document itself so that this wouldn't have to happen, but I don't remember where we landed on that. Does anybody recall?
We can take a look at how the CCC handled that, because they have this separation, I think. So, but yeah, you're right. We need to update a bit of things. Yeah. Okay.
So is the proposal for the charter to consult with the CCC, the overall CCC, and see how they handle the names, separation of names, and the roles?
Sorry, Shanwei, I couldn't hear what you say.
So for the charter, right?
Yeah.
So is it the proposal to consult with the CCC,
There's the TAC. The TAC is a governance document that has probably solved this problem already. Separating the charter from the chair's name and whatever. So we can take a look at that and just, create a PR and fix it.
Okay.
Cool.
So
Anything
is
else?
there anybody volunteering to do that?
I'll volunteer.
Thanks, Greg.
Sure.
And then I think if we're going to skip the next meeting in 2 weeks and have one in 4 weeks, we need to nominate a chair for that. Which I'll be out, so I have a good excuse.
I can volunteer.
Cool.
Since it's nice and simple, just introduce Sean Wei.
All right. So thank you very much, everyone. And see you in a month. And happy
Very
holidays. Yeah.
Be August.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.